There you go.
All right. Good morning and welcome back to the Waymakers. Today is Fun Friday. We've got a great topic for you all today. Hopefully, we have some people joining on Facebook Live as well as in the Zoom call. Link in the group chat and Facebook. Uh, Today's topic is going to be on the final stretch. Um, Taking advantage of your willpower and uh,
Yes, all that.
yes.
Yeah,
Making
I'll
it,
take it
just
from there.
making it.
Yeah.
I got a little
Yeah.
choked up
You're
there,
on your
everybody.
final stretch, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm on my final
You made
stretch.
it. You made it
Mind
across the
everywhere,
finish line. Yeah. Yeah. No, we were talking about, I had a friend who ran the New York Marathon this last week, and she talked about how, she was energized and completely with it for the first 21 miles. And when she hit mile 21, she wanted just to lay down and be done. And she had to will herself across the finish line. And she made it. She completed the marathon, but those final 5 miles were the most difficult miles of the entire marathon for her. And we were talking about how that's really a metaphor for life, that so many of us are on a marathon and we have these goals, this end state that we're trying to reach, trying to manifest, and that we make it 3/4 of the way there. And then we just sometimes wear out, or we're trying so hard to get to that finish line, and it just seems to get a little further away and a little further away as we approach it. So we thought, after looking at all of your comments and some of the questions that you had for us, that this was a really good way to kind of lump together all of the things that you're thinking about. We have people who, are trying to manifest things, who are trying to reach goals, who are trying to overcome addictions. And all of those things really equate to something like a marathon, where you've worked hard, you've trained, you're doing everything right, you're working really, really hard to reach your goal, to get across that finish line. And, you may need a little bit of help and encouragement for that last stretch. So that's what we're here for today.
I love it, Jenna. I remember when I did a half a marathon and I I could have ran faster. I was halfway through and then I thought to myself, you know what? You should slow down because you're gonna run out of juice before the finish line. So I
That
slowed
Gatorade
down.
is long gone.
This is not a short term, run. This is a long term run. So I paced myself. And even though like I saw people were sprinting in front of me, I was like, just take your time, don't worry. Just take it easy. And I did, and I finished fine. I wasn't tired. I was probably passing other people at the end. I wasn't even paying attention to other people, but I finished in like 2 hours. And so it was good. Like I felt really good and I accomplished something, right? I wanted to work up to the 24, but I didn't do it because it's a lot of training and I didn't have a lot of time at the time. Now I still love running and I enjoy it, but I always keep that in mind, like pace myself. Like it's not a mad rush to the end. And I think that's a great, example of life. Like we don't have to rush to the end. We don't have to rush life. Life happens at its pace. Life happens with ebbs and flows. And thank you, Milan, for correcting me. I said ebb and flows.
You said Evan Flo, like the guy's first name is Evan, his last name's Flo. I'm doing this like Evan.
Yeah, she does speak multiple languages though, so we'll give her a break.
Evan, bro.
It reminds me of the bottles, when you give the baby a newborn, you want to give the a bottle that doesn't allow them to swallow a lot of air, right? And so they don't burp on you. But yeah, no, it's about, life and the ups and downs and the even flows and just, we don't live in a vacuum. And sometimes we forget that having a lull in your life and having things slow down and taking time out for yourself is okay. Like we're entitled to that. We should have those moments. And it's not just go, 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 hit the goal, hit the goal, hit the goal, go, go. You know what I mean? Like life is meant to be enjoyed and to be grateful for every single day and every single moment and every single breath. Like there's a lot of people who struggle to breathe every day,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and if you breathe in that final stretch, if you pace yourself, I think that's a really good point, Mariposa, that, everybody goes at things at their own pace, and life is a journey, life is a marathon in a way, but you're not going to make it to the finish line if you put everything you have, into that first 20 miles and you have nothing left, for
Yeah.
the end of the stretch. And I think that's the thing is that, we've been talking a lot in this group about saying yes to yourself, about taking care of yourself, about self-love, being self-fulfilled. And that's really, really important because like if you're running a marathon and you're not drinking water, you're not breathing, you haven't trained, you haven't taken care of yourself, it's going to be really, really hard. And I think, we talk a lot about manifesting things and that you just have to change your thoughts and, things appear and that's all wonderful, but that takes practice. It's a process and it takes, inner work, right?
Yeah.
Mariposa has been spending a lot of time teaching us about inner work. Milan, has some great stories about inner work and how really, focusing within and taking care of the self within and honoring that helps you, to move forward in that journey.
Yeah. And really knowing that everybody's going to get to that point where it does seem overwhelming. We all get to that place. And I think it's a real valuable place because, I really like the phrase, you're stronger than you think. Because sometimes like you're thinking, I can't do this. This is terrible. Like there's no way I can move forward. But, time and time again, when you do pause, when you do, look back at where you've been or how far you've come, that, hey, I know this is 26.3 miles and I've gone 26. I can do the point three, and you have to remind yourself that you are stronger than you think. And, you can get that second wind or maybe that third wind or maybe that fourth wind to keep you going. But yeah, when you were talking about how, get the water and the prep and all that stuff, and it's really key that you do that inner work before you head out, and you do that work before you head out. You can't just like, all right, today's Tuesday, I'm just gonna go run this marathon real quick. Like, no, your body's gonna be like, hey man, what are you doing? Don't do that.
Your body
So there
will
is,
quit on you.
yeah, so there is a bit of preparation that goes along with that, and even with all the preparation, life is going to give you some twists and turns, some things to deal with. But having people that are in your corner is so great. Like reaching out to us, even just vicariously through email or when you guys signed up to just let us know where you would like help. Like even that little bit is like giving you a push to keep going. It's like somebody came along and like put their arm around you, like, all right, I got you. We'll limp across this thing to get it through. And that's really what we do as waymakers is help you guys make a way, not just when it's easy and just to keep things easy, but when it's tricky, when it is that last bit and you do have to will yourself across. It's like, well, let me reach out to some people that have already done it. We've run marathons in our lives in so many crazy ways, and some physical, some mental, some emotional. But it's willing yourself across that is really, like Jenna was saying, it's self-love, it's self-value, it's self-worth, it's believing in yourself and believing that you can finish the story that you started and that it's worth it. And reminding yourself,
That
for
you're
me,
worth it.
yeah,
Hmm.
reminding myself that like, hey, the thing that I started, why did I start the thing? Oh, I started it because of this. Okay, then that's good enough to keep me going just one more step or one
Yeah,
more day.
yeah,
Because you don't got to do it a marathon every day, but it is important to take a step every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I was thinking about what Ryan said, several months ago about his trip. And Ryan, you should talk about how you made it through because a lot of people that went with you didn't make it through your Appalachian Trail, right? And you
Mhm.
talked about getting from water source to water source. And sometimes as I think what it takes is getting from point A to point B. You
Yeah.
focus on something and you're like, okay, I'm going to get to that corner, or that tree and then go from there, and I think that's important. And Ryan, it's something I think you can speak to most articulately because, you went through it with the Appalachian Trail that you went on.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely relates to life. I mean, even the trail is almost a metaphor, even though it was quite physical for me. Um, but yeah, moving from water source to water source is very relative to life. If you're just going, day by day and doing like goal to goal, um, And I mean, while Milan was speaking and you with the marathon, a quote that I was thinking of by Confucius, I believe, the man who says he can and the man who says he cannot are both correct. So um, having that mentality behind the support as well will take you a long way. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as the both trails that I've done, they say it's majority mental compared to physical because humans can walk further than any mammal on the planet, so I've been told. Um, but it's just the mentality behind it. Yeah, I guess you have to have the reasoning behind anything, and like we were talking about earlier, the willpower to overcome. I had days where, or I guess I had weeks where it would be 7 days straight of rain, especially on the Appalachian Trail, and I'd have to wake up and put on wet socks and do 25 miles every day. It's
Oof.
just like, every single day you wake up, you have to put your tent down in the rain, everything's wet, and you have to get to that next campsite. You don't have a choice. I mean, I guess you always have a choice, but if you're only carrying 5 days of food, for example, you need to get 100 miles. You got to do 20 miles a day, regardless of what's in your
Wow.
path. So, for me, my the belief in myself is what kept me going, but you have to have the belief in yourself because with it being majority mental, and especially East Coast, how much rain and moisture there is. For me, uh, rain was the biggest thing to overcome, but I learned a lot of good lessons in that, in which like after that 7 day stretch of rain, any second I would see the sun is ah just basking and basking in the sunlight, and I had never felt so happy for sun before, and like having to walk 2 miles out of your way to go get water and come back is just like, oh, a faucet, that'd be great right about now. So just learning the appreciation for everything. Um, but as far as the willpower, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of overcoming, and keeping that in goal in mind to finishing the trail um,
Yeah,
outweighed any
yeah.
obstacle in my path.
Well, and it took a lot of planning on your part. The fact that you had to do the math, how many miles a day do I need to do to get to my goal? And, what you had a goal and you stuck to it. I can get through this 20 miles regardless of weather and rain. And, you kept your pace and you kept going. And, something that's interesting to me is you know, you had the physical water source to water source, right? But what is the metaphorical water source to water source for those of us, who are trying to reach a goal? Mariposa talks a lot about, water sources, and she sent us all some great resources, to make it through tough situations, traumatic triggers, fatigue, exhaustion, trying to visualize and not self-doubt. And I think it's something that we can offer to you. There's lots of resources that we have available. Like Mariposa is always sending us breathing exercises and meditations. And Milan has such great words of encouragement, in his book and so many of his quotes, right? I'm always saying, I heard a quote from Lord Milan.
Yeah,
um,
I love quoting
yeah.
myself. It's awesome.
But I think it's something that is really wonderful is to have each other to help, and that's really why we do Fun Fridays. We don't necessarily get to have you in the conversation, although we'd love to have you join our Zoom and be in the conversation if you ever want to join us. But we do read what you have to say, and we want to encourage you. There's so many of you that are so close to that finish line, that are so close to reaching your goal. You've done the work, you've done the planning, and now what is the next step to reach that goal? And I think there's lots of different techniques that you can engage, but the most important one is to believe in yourself, to voice what it is that you want to do, to write it down in a journal. We talked about last week, writing down our goals every single day and then mapping out how we're going to reach them. And sometimes we don't know the how. Sometimes we just have to trust the universe that the how is going to appear. But if
Yeah.
we're working toward it, if we wake up every morning and we write it down, or we talk to somebody about it, or we, make an effort to do it. I mean, sometimes that goal may be just getting up, getting dressed, but it's a start. And I think, putting one foot in front of the other is a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and no amount of progress is too small. There's
Mhm.
it's a method called the Kaizen method that talks about just doing things for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Like, hey, you want to read more, you want to become a more voracious reader, okay, like read for 1 minute for at a time, and then don't do anything else. Just do that one thing. And it little bits of success are still success, and little bits of accomplishments are still accomplishments. And I'm a firm testament. I'm a testament of that, because post injury, I couldn't even put my shirt on. I couldn't put chapstick on. I couldn't hold a fork. I couldn't do anything. And as at a 17, 18-year-old self, that's not really the funnest situation to be
Yeah.
in. But now looking back, I'm like, circle, the idea of standing up to yourself has been all over the place, because it's really when you're in that spot and your mind is saying I can't do this anymore, there's a version of you that can stand up to that self and say yes you can, and give you
Mhm.
those reminders, whether that's scripture or a quote from somebody else, or it's an idea, or even just the stories of other people. Because I think that's one of the reasons that we love entertainment, why we um give so much money and power and influence and whatnot to entertainers and movie stars, because those movies do empower us. We
Mhm.
do live vicariously through these characters sometimes, and it's they give us the motivation, and they're a real visual version of heroes in life. You might not have the heroes around you or your circle or your family or friends, but you can look at these characters that we all have been inspired by one way or the other. Like, we were talking about with the hero's journey uh last week, was it? Maybe. I'm not sure. But just
Beginning
talking
of this week.
about um Gladiator and Maximus, and how he stood up for himself and stood up to himself, because he could have gone this way and he could have gone that way, and he could have chosen the easier route. Like Ryan could have just stopped. Like, after a month, he's just like, I'm just not going to do it anymore, and just stopped. But he stood up to himself and was like, no, like, this is worthwhile. I'm going to keep going. Maybe just one more day. And then, one more day over and over ends up being an entire lifetime of progress.
Mhm. And some people don't necessarily finish it the first time, right, Ryan? Like some of your friends
Oh, yeah.
didn't finish it, but maybe they went back and finished it later. I think forgiving yourself too is okay. I think it's important to stand up to yourself for yourself, but also to forgive yourself, and to really evaluate what's important, and to continue to get up and to continue to go and push for it. Because so many of us fall down and fail. Milana's talking about the hero's journey, and that's one of the universal symbols of the hero's journey, is that you sometimes fall down. You sometimes don't succeed, but it's about getting up and going on. Somehow, some way. So many of us have experienced tragedies. My mom, lost her husband very suddenly, and it was very tragic. And she could have laid in bed and felt sorry for herself for months, and nobody would have, said anything about it other than that they loved her. But she didn't. She started her new life and she's kept going, and she sees it as a way to honor her husband. And so, despite the slings and arrows that life throws at you, you can get through this. And I think that's what's really important. If you have a goal, if you have something that you really, really want to achieve, put one foot in front of the other, focus on that water source, keep going, lean on somebody, hold somebody's hand to get through it. But you can do it. You really can.
Yeah, in the middle of my I actually wrote it in my book, but I wrote in there that when I was in the middle of like the chaos in my life, right? I had going through somebody mentioned it today, or I read it in the book, and it said the conscious uncoupling for an AKA divorce. Conscious uncoupling process that I went through for the second time. I just felt like I was walking in a snow blizzard. And I mean, it was cold, it was dark. I didn't know if I was going to make it out alive. but I just kept going, and I kept just putting, like you said, Jenna, one foot in front of the other, and just knowing that somehow, some way, just keep by walking, continuing to go forward, things are going to be okay. Like the storm would pass and I would be fine. And I was, and it was great afterwards. But yeah, I mean, all you have to do is just keep going. And it's a scary place. And it's sometimes most of the time you do it alone. But the important thing is not to stay down, right? Life happens and things don't always go the way we want it to go, but we just have to keep going, and learning from those opportunities, if you will, and just take the good from it and harvest the good. We did an episode called Harvest the Good. It's all about just what can I learn from this situation and how can I make my life better because I experienced this, even though it sucks, right? Like trauma and abuse and losing someone, a loved one, like all of that sucks big time. But there's power when you can embrace it and learn from it and become a better person because you went through it, not despite that, and not to let that stop you from continuing your journey and continuing to grow and continuing to become your most powerful self in this life. Like I used to pray, God, just take me now. Like I'm ready to go. I've done everything. I've accomplished everything. Like just take me now. I'm ready to go enjoy heaven with you, right? But life is meant to be lived here and now, and heaven is on earth, and we make heaven or hell on earth. I had to take responsibility for myself and only myself and not anybody else, as I was trying to take responsibility for those around me, but that wasn't my job. My job was only to take care of me and my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. And that's the journey of life, is that we're in control of our life and we can create the life we want to live if we are conscious about it, if we are awake, if we're thinking and connecting to our end state, our end vision, right? So my vision is to be happy, to be free, to be joyous, and that includes all things abundant, right? And it takes training. It takes training to train your mind, to train your thoughts. Like I had to run that half marathon before I even ran it. I ran it 2 weeks prior. So I already knew I could do it. I already finished. I knew my time and I knew I could do it. So this is life. We have to practice every day. We have to have a practice, right? Whatever that practice may be. Maybe it's connecting to your goal, to your vision, to spirit, to source, to your higher power, and to reconnect to yourself, seeing yourself, being that person, that end goal, that end state. If you're trying to break addictions, if you're trying to manifest a love, let's talk about a love, right? Let's say you want this beautiful relationship, right? You have it, or you may not have it now. Maybe you have someone you want it better. Like just imagine the person, not even the face, but just see the relationship going the way you want it. See you interacting with this person the way you want. An energy, another person, right? And just the interaction in and of itself, and the love and the affection and all the things you want. Just imagine that feeling and connect to that and stay connected to that and see and feel that in your heart. And little by little, you will become that person, right? Because we have to become that person first. We have to become what we want to attract. So we have to be more loving. We have to be more caring. We have to be more things.
That was something that I definitely embodied years before I met my wife. Just really even just thinking like what would the ideal relationship be, and figuring that out for me, like, oh, I would be the happiest in this situation. I would be the happiest in that situation. I would appreciate a partner that does this or that does that, or just being able to express all of me. And after I did my DNA, I was like, oh well, there's a whole lot to express. Okay, so I'm gonna be this and this, and just the freedom of being able to express all of me is something
Mhm.
that I longed for in a partner and I hadn't had before her. So I started to live that life of expression. Like, oh, I started learning French, and then I started traveling to different countries that where my family came, where the bloodline started, and started going to these places and embracing these things. And after I did that, that's when I met her. And then it turns out that she's like the amalgamation of all those things that I thought were awesome, which is really great because I didn't know at the time, but she was doing the same thing on the flip side. And I became the amalgamation of all the things that she wanted and embodied as well. And it's amazingly weird that it
Mhm.
works that way when you become and give yourself what you long for rather than waiting for somebody else to do it. Then it's just so much more enriching when it does show up.
Yeah. There's a saying that what you seek is seeking you, right? And you know, it's really exciting if you put it out to the universe and somebody else is putting it out to the universe as well. But I think one of the important things in that is that you visualize what you wanted in the future, you know, and you had that vision in your mind, but you also were really present in the moment, you know, and grateful in the moment too. And, you know, you can't live in, um, you can live in your imagination, but you have to be aware of what's going on around you and be present in that moment too. And I think it's a very interesting thing, you know, because we need to visualize that in state. And, you know, we need to hope for that, you know, the power of hope is incredible, but
Right.
you also need to be grateful, you know, each moment as you move forward in those moments. And I think that's when things begin to manifest because happiness and hope and joy, all those things like project and attract it back. So if you think about like what you put out into the world is what comes back to you. What you seek is seeking you. And so if you move through those moments, moving towards that goal with joy and with gratitude, you'll find that that comes back to you as well. I think that's an important lesson to think about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about jobs for a second, right? Let's say you hate your job. We've all been there. You hate your job. You don't want to be there, but like you got to pay the bills and you do it and you go, right? All right. So let's start thinking about what you would love to do instead in exchange for money, right? And let's just use our imagination to create how much money you want to make and go to the end and receive it and be happy for it, right? And then so now you got your picture, what you want to do, how much you want to make. And then you want to come back to where you are today and you want to be grateful for the job you have today, like that
Yeah.
sucky job, the job you hate. Be grateful for it, that you have it, that it's providing for you now. Be grateful for the opportunity and the people that you get to work with. Like start to be grateful for all of that, right? Because you cannot manifest that bigger, better paying job if you are unhappy now. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? Like you become the energy, you're attracting the energy you feel right this moment. So if you're dissatisfied and hating life, you will continue to attract more things that'll make you hate your job, hate your life, right? This is how I was. I lived this life. I know that. And it wasn't even the things I was doing. It was the feeling, right?
Yeah.
Feeling is the secret and is key.
That's how I was for so long. Post injury was I was so focused on what I didn't have and what I couldn't do.
Mm,
And it
mhm.
just produced such, shitty feelings, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
and DDH, my women's empowerment brand, put out this morning that words produce waves and waves produce feelings. So tell yourself something that will, give you those great feelings. Like it's up to you to cause those waves to start, which I see waves in Mariposa's background all the time, which is awesome. Um, but yeah, like you can cause those waves in your life because those your words do cause feelings, and the whole sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. That's ridiculous. Like
Mhm.
words can make and break your day. If Ryan was choosing to I don't know, just think about negative things as opposed to listening to empowering books on that trip, maybe he wouldn't have
Mhm.
finished it. You
Yeah.
know, if I was stuck saying, just focused on what I didn't have, or wishing somebody would do things for me, or wishing I had the body that I used to have post injury, then, you know, I just would have been stuck. But my words, it's just like when your thoughts and your words and your actions align, then you can really move forward. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm thinking about myself as walking and doing these amazing things. I'm speaking about walking and doing these amazing things. And then I'm taking the steps that I can, you know, maybe that's just pushing this chair slightly this way. That I can in order to get that way. And it's like, you know, I'm always saying that, you know, you might not be able to get yourself from A to Z by yourself, but you can get from A to C.
Mm.
And then in doing that, you attract other people because you took that step to believe in yourself. And life is rooting for you. It's just waiting for us to choose ourselves and to believe that we're worth the fight, worth the win.
Yeah.
There's
I
a great
think,
quote by Lord Milan that says, create a story that ends well. And it's up to you to do that. You know, you have
yeah.
that power.
Yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. And sometimes, though, you may not have the strength or the the will to say those words to yourself. Sometimes, you know, you may feel self-deprecating, or you may feel lost in that darkness. Um, and I think that, you know, we always say pick yourself up and say good things to yourself, but there have been times when I have felt discouraged. Excuse me, when I felt discouraged, and I have even done, like, I have on Spotify, you know, and I'll put in my headphone affirmations that somebody else says, you know, with the I, like, I am this, I am that, or like the Stuart Smalley. Do you guys remember on Saturday Night Live that I am good enough, I am strong enough, I am, you know, whatever. And gosh darn it, people like me. You know, I think
Right.
sometimes, you know, you can
Gotta
get
convince
affirmations.
yourself.
Yeah, you can get affirmations from other people. And so, you know, if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling like, oh yeah, that's great, but I can't say those words to myself right now. You know, I'm mad at myself, or I'm discouraged with myself. You know, get a meditation, you know, reach out to us. Let us say words of affirmation to you. You know, have somebody help you, because I think that's really important too. Because what happens with me is if I wake up like after I have a nightmare, I'm discouraged, and I listen to those words of affirmation, I start to embrace them and embody them, and then I can say them to myself. And a lot of times I'll write in my gratitude journal, and I'll write, I'm so happy and grateful. And I'll like joke in my head for nothing today, but I actually am, you know, and I just start writing, what am I grateful for today? And sometimes it's really small things like, you know, a dragonfly that flies outside of my window, or my dog making me laugh, you know, or the fact that, you know, the sun came up this morning. I mean, whatever it is, if you start with something small, it begins to build, because Milan is absolutely right. You know, that feeling builds and that wave grows. If you've ever sat and watched the ocean, you know, it may be still, or there may be movement, and then that wave begins to build. And I was out watching surfers on a Solomar beach the other day, and you know, they were running because it was a really good day. The waves were breaking really well, and so there were like 20 of them, you know, booking for the waves. And as they got out there, you know, you watch them bobbing up and down and waiting, and as that wave begins to build, they all, you know, start kicking and swimming, and when they catch it, it's an amazing thing, right? To watch them ride that wave all the way in. And you know, if you think about that, if you watch that wave build, you know, sometimes it takes a bit, and, you know, sometimes the wave doesn't quite build the way you want it to, but the tide is consistent and you are consistent, you know, and if you keep working at it, that wave will come, those words will come, that magic, that, you know, finish line will appear for you. And you just need to visualize yourself crossing that finish line, breaking that ribbon, throwing up your hands, and, you know, winning that race. It's
Yeah.
important, really
And
important, that visualization.
yeah, and you can even just start by making a list every day, just 10 things you're grateful for every day.
Mhm.
You know, it could be as simple as I have Wi-Fi, I have coffee.
Not
Right.
always. I live in the
That
country, so not always.
exactly. So being
Yeah,
grateful for it will
yeah,
bring more
yeah,
great Wi-Fi connection,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, Coffee, you know, the fact that we
Running water.
running water, yeah, is that we woke
Heat.
up this right in
Yeah,
the cold
yeah.
in the
Yes.
winter. I mean, a warm cover, a blanket. I mean, how many people don't have those things? You know, we take it for
Mhm.
granted. We in the United States of America have so much of everything. I mean, a lot. And I've been traveling the world, and there's many people who don't have that, who don't have their own bed, who don't have a cup of coffee in the morning. Like, I know, Ryan, you ran out of coffee, but you could go buy some, right? So
Yeah.
there's just so many things that we take for granted. So just making a list will set the vibration, the feeling to a different state, a different frequency, a different vibration, so that from there you can find more reasons to be grateful for, and just try to go throughout the whole day, just being grateful for every little thing that shows up in your life that brings you pleasure, brings you joy, brings you happiness, and make a note of that. Make a note of that mentally. I know, we've been conditioned so much to just focus on what we don't like. Even what we don't like about ourselves. Like, let's talk about that for a moment. How many times do you look in the mirror and you say, oh, look at this zit I have on my face, and look at this gray hair, whatever, like, why don't we just appreciate the beauty within us and the joy and the youthfulness that is within us? I mean, we're older by age, yeah, but you're still young. You're young at heart. We are young as we feel. You can feel old, and like, I felt older when I was younger, and now that I'm older, I feel younger and I look younger. There is a process of reverse aging. I don't know if you guys know about that.
From laughing and joy. Yeah.
Just the vibe, the feeling of just happiness and joy, and really living life to the fullest is what life is all about, and it's meant for us. And that's our birthright. That's our birthright, and we choose to take it or leave it. We choose to stay in discomfort and anger and just hating life, or we can choose to enjoy life and to not let those dark shadows. We've been talking a lot about, how when we're kids, we're scared, right? And I think it's definitely ingrained in us, right? There's a boogie monster outside the window. There's a boogeyman, like, you need to stay in bed because the boogeyman's gonna get you, right? This is how we keep kids in the bed instead of running around, and so then you grow up thinking there is a real scary monster in the closet and you're scared. But once you get older and a little bit wiser, you go in the closet, you open the door, and you realize there's nothing there. And what were we all scared about our whole life, right? Nothing. I still know grown-ups who are scared of the dark, a dark room. Like,
that's just the power of your mind and the power of your thoughts. That if they're that powerful to push you one way, they're powerful to push you anyway. And the repetitiveness of what you focus on, and what you focus on, you start to believe is true. What you believe is true is what you believe is attainable, and what's attainable is really your life. So it's like, it really comes down to like the story that you're telling yourself on a regular basis of, is that really getting me towards my goal, or is it not? And we all have those moments where it might not be the healthiest conversation that we're having with ourselves, but it can be short-lived if you choose to. And that's like when the real power of awareness comes in, is it's your choice. You can just tell yourself a different story at any time. And
write a new story for yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the good thing is, it doesn't even have to align with your current circumstance. I was saying that I can walk again and F this chair and all that stuff. Like, when the day it happened.
I have to interrupt you. I mean, I believe you. I dreamt you were walking with us. Like, we were walking towards like nothing.
Yeah.
With ease and flow.
And like, that's the reality that I saw for myself. And that's why my body changed after I broke my neck. And I was told, hey, no feeling, no movement ever. And I was like, nah, that sounds terrible. No, thank you.
Not a reality I want. Yeah.
Not the reality that I want. And as unlikely as it seemed, that's the reality that I got, was the reality that I chose and that I focused on and I believed. And that's the testament of all of us, that we have this power within us to change our circumstances when we choose to believe in it.
Yeah. And you're still in that final stretch, you're still working to that perfect, end to your story, but you are writing a new story for yourself. And I think that's what's really cool, is we have the power to write a new story for ourselves. If we don't like the story we're in, we can sit down, and I think physically for me, it's about actually writing that new story. What is the new story that you want to write for yourself? And and in Mariposa, you talked about fears, and the executive director of the nonprofit that I work with was afraid of Jaws when she was a little kid, like terrified. She saw the movie Jaws and was absolutely terrified of it. And so what she decided to do is she decided to educate herself and get over her fear of sharks. And right now she's one of the world's premier shark experts in the world. Right now she's in South Africa, on a yacht studying the dynamic between the great whites and the orcas. And, she is now, one of the premier scientists, and it all came from her deciding to overcome the fear. And what happened is she embraced it, right? She embraced the suck, like Milan says. She embraced that fear and she learned everything she could learn. And she ended up loving sharks, and finding herself and writing a new story for herself in that. And I think that's really important. The other thing I was thinking about as you guys were talking is mirror work. Mariposa, you talked about, sometimes we're like, oh, gosh, my hair looks crazy, whatever, you're upset with how you look. And I mean, we're on Zoom every morning and, we get up early to do it and we don't always look our best on the Zoom, but we've decided to embrace that. But something that my husband taught my kids, and I know he heard it on a psychologist or something talked about it, but when they would get discouraged or they would be bullied at school or they would feel like they weren't good enough, he would literally make them stand in the middle of the kitchen. He's like, okay, stand with your legs apart and put your arms, your hands on your hips.
Power pose.
The power pose, or put your arms up in the air. I am Superman. I am Wonder Woman. And it's funny because my daughter was discouraged about something the other day and my husband had her on speakerphone. And he said, put your hands on your hips. You are Wonder Woman. You are Superman, and she'll do that. She'll do the Wonder Woman pose when she's mad. She'll be like, oh, I can do this, and she's 25 now, but she's been doing it ever since she was little. And, it's so funny because I think that even just those little tiny things that you can do for yourself, if we all practice that right now, stood there and did our power pose, it's amazing how it makes you feel stronger. Ryan, see, you look like a
Ryan looked
superhero.
official.
I know, you looked official.
Like the sun hit his face as soon as he turned.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's yeah. And it's that goes back to like, your thoughts and your physicality are intimately connected. And like when you can change your body, like Tony Robbins always talks about, like taking massive action. And sometimes that massive action may not be the biggest thing, but just moving your body into something like the power pose or forcing a smile on your face, like it triggers greatness. It triggers things in your brain. It triggers endorphins. It triggers all types of things. And it's those things like that. Nobody has to know that you're saying in your head that, like, I'm so beautiful and powerful. Like, nobody has to know, but and like just telling yourself that story or having your own mantra or the things that just excite you, just to remind yourself of those things, can really pull you out of that, to give you that bit of energy you do need to just keep going for one more day, or keep going for another, taking one more step, or making that hard choice again and again in order to move forward. And sometimes that hard choice is standing up to yourself. Sometimes that hard choice is leaving a relationship. And we've well, not all of us, I guess, but me included, I've had that situation happen where it's like, the hard decision, the thing that kept me going to finish this race of my own happiness and my own fulfillment, was leaving somebody else. And you can't take everybody with you. And that's a hard lesson that I think that we all learn eventually, is that not everybody is willing to go with you. Not everybody is willing to believe in what you believe in. And that can be really hard, but believing in yourself and saying that you're worth it, regardless of how other people potentially feel, is a vital tool to real progression.
It's everything. It's everything. I mean, so choosing yourself is not selfish, right? I think there's this misconception. It's self-full, right? You choosing yourself is you're fulfilling yourself, which again, I stated earlier, we're not responsible for making sure other people are happy. We're only responsible for making sure that we're happy, that we're fulfilled, right? Everybody is responsible for their own happiness. And to take on somebody else's happiness, you're going to be miserable trying to make other people happy, because they're never going to be happy, because the only person that can make them happy is themselves. Okay. So having said that, so being self-full, self-love, self-fulfillment, self. This is the road to happiness. Okay. Because
Reliant.
as you fulfill yourself, as you're full of happiness and joy, you can give that to others. You can help people. The people around you will feel that. You'll start to make a difference in your life and in other people's lives. Those people that are around you, you're going to impact them in a very deep, profound way where they're going to be like in awe, like, oh, look at what you did, look at what you've done. If they're willing to come along with you, if not, that's okay. Like, you don't have to stop what you're doing, right? One of the things that I learned early on is self-love, to work on myself, focus on myself, my inner self. So I did mirror work, and I'm going to say it so you can get kind of the gist of it, and you can make it your own or write it down. I'll post it in the group so you guys can listen or redo it on your own, because this is important. You're important. And I think a lot of us we're just so conditioned not to choose ourselves and not to really love ourselves. So the mirror work is like this. You look at your eyes, you look at yourself in the mirror. Okay. So it's you in the mirror, and that's it. Nobody else, just you in the mirror. You're looking at your eyes, into your eyes, right? Into your eyes. And you're going to say, for me, it went like this. Celine, I really, really love you. You are the love of my life. I will never leave you, and I will always be with you no matter what. I will never abandon you. I love you. And you read this, said this to myself out loud in the mirror, looking at myself in the eyes over and over and over. And tears were coming out of my eye. I mean, this is something that comes from Hay House, right? And it was taught to me by my first coach, and I did it, and I didn't feel comfortable doing it at first. I did not. I felt weird. I felt uncomfortable. I was like, but I don't really love myself. I mean, it's just all a bunch of emotions, right? So something to help you to overcome this feeling of not feeling like you're worthy enough, like your life isn't meant to be fulfilled, right? So if you come across any type of feelings about self or being selfish or anything like that, just practice that in the mirror. Just tell yourself this over and over and over, especially if you're in a toxic relationship, in an abusive relationship, and somebody who doesn't appreciate you, doesn't love you. Do it. And you're going to feel supported by you, because a lot of times you need support. And the first person you need to support is yourself. You need support from your own self, even though you don't feel it. And I didn't feel loved by me for a long time. And the relationship with self is the best relationship you could ever have, ever, to help you accomplish your dreams, your goals, your life. You got to do that.
No matter where you go, there you
You're
are.
always there.
You
You
are.
can never get away from yourself.
Right. Ever. You can walk all day and then still be right there with you. So
Exactly.
yeah, learning to love yourself. I think it's interesting that my self-love journey didn't really begin until my injury. And then because that's when I really started to look at myself and to see what was what, where have I been? Where do I want to go? What am I doing? And really paying attention to my own thoughts. And I think that's a big skill and big opportunity for everybody, is just start to pay attention to yourself and pay attention to the things you think and the things that you think about other people, or the things that you think when other people are talking, or the things that you think when you see yourself in the mirror. It's just, it all starts with paying attention to yourself. And the more I paid attention to myself, it really gave me the clarity that I needed. And I could really decide what I really believed and what I really didn't. Because sometimes, the loudest voice in our head is not our own. It's not our thoughts. It's not our beliefs. It's just what we're given, what the circumstances dictate, or what our environment tells us. But when you quiet yourself and when you really listen to yourself and pay attention, then you can really decide what's true for you. And if you have the inkling to love yourself more, or to get away from a situation, or to embrace the suck of this and make the hard choices, then that's because the solutions are already there waiting for you. It's the desire seeking expression through you fulfill those things. And sometimes it is a hard choice, but it really leads you to a great place when you choose to say yes to yourself.
Yeah.
Magic happens.
It
Yeah.
does.
And I think, going with our theme, of the final stretch, when you say yes to yourself, you can make it that final 5 miles, that final
Right.
0.3 of a mile, that final few steps, and cross that finish line. I said earlier, visualize yourself crossing that finish line, breaking that ribbon, throwing your hands up in the air, falling down on the ground, whatever you want to imagine, but imagine and visualize yourself making it. Because if
Yeah.
you visualize yourself succeeding, that's part of that self-love. Because you visualize yourself succeeding, you visualize yourself reaching those goals and making it, to that happy ending, and I think it's something that we want to encourage you to do and something that we practice daily. I mean, we
Yeah.
will never advise you to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves, and it's something we have to practice daily, right?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Even if it looks like it's going the wrong way, like it's not coming to fruition, like you're like everything is telling you it's not going to happen, like it doesn't matter, like still visualize, believe, and have that faith. Like I've come across loans, like I do loans, as well, mortgages, and I tend to get the ones that are like no one wants to do. Everybody's like, no, we can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, I could do this. And I started, and in the middle of it, I'm like, why did I take this on? This is like the most difficult loan ever. And everybody's telling me, nope, everything. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. I see this loan closing. I see my client happy. I see them in their house. And it just, by miracle, it happens. Okay. So it's just an example. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. When things are looking like it's just not going to happen, like it doesn't matter. Don't give that any energy.
Don't give up.
Stay focused on the energy that it's done. It's done. Like
Mhm.
you have what you want and you're happy and you're joyous and they're happy and everybody's happy.
Right. And if nobody believes in you, we do.
I was gonna say, we're happy for you.
Yeah, we're happy for you. Like you reach out and you say, this is your goal. We'll be like, okay, bet. This is your goal. Let's make this thing happen. I believe in you.
Yeah, we share our belief and our vision for you with you. We help you and we take you along the path. Like we show you your own path. We help you create your own path because it's not going to be my way. It's not going to be Ryan's way. It's not going to be Milan's way. It's your unique way. You have your own method, your own blueprint, your own vision, your own goals. Like we're not trying to give you goals. You have your own goals. You create your own way. And we're just lighting the path one step at a time as you go through this journey. And we're here to make dreams come true. We're here to help you live your best life.
Yeah.
Like our VIP client getting her book published and getting her a
Yeah.
deal. Well, like in what, like 60 days?
Yeah.
It happens since you started
Yeah.
working with us. And that's, yeah, it's amazing.
And we're
And that's
all
just
about to
something that-
launch books too, more books.
Right. And that's what fuels us is the completion of it, We're promoting you to finish that race out because it's worthwhile. And we've all finished those hard races, those marathons that seemed so implausible, but now we're like, all right, cool, okay. Can't believe I did that, but okay, it worked. Our Ryan, when Ryan says the distance that he's hiked, I'm just like, holy crap.
What's the
I know.
distance, Ryan? What's the
You mean he
distance?
walked from Mexico to Canada? That's just a long walk.
Yeah, the first one was 2,200 miles, and the second one was 2,653.
Wow.
2,653.
Not 2650, 2653.
On
Like,
I
Yeah.
think it's 0.6. Honestly, I think it's 0.6. Yeah, on foot.
Yeah.
That would be like me walking from Colorado to Virginia to see my son and then up to Maine to see my daughter.
So now when people say like, "Oh, I can't afford to get a flight," I don't care. You can walk to me. I know it can be done.
Yeah.
One
Right.
foot in front of the other.
I'll
I'll
have-
see you in 3 years, Ryan.
I'll have Gatorade and an Ace bandage for you when you get here.
Oh, too funny. But seriously, you guys can do it. We're at our time, just think about it. One foot in front of the other, reach for that finish line, keep going, don't get discouraged. And if you're just starting the marathon, lean on us for training, for help, for planning. We're here for you.
That's why we
Absolutely.
created this community. And do share, reach out. We have pretty much reached out to everyone. So check your
Ooh,
messages.
And you can now go to waymakersglobal.com to find out more. Oh gosh, I'm so happy that
Yes.
website works. Yes.
Yes. Check out our webpage. It's going to continue to grow and evolve, but we've got a lot of wonderful things in store for you, especially for the holidays. So don't miss out. Join us. You need support, you need community. We're here for you. We got you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and go out and have fun this Friday and have a wonderful weekend.
Yes. Happy Veterans Day to
Yes.
all our veterans. Thank you all
Yes.
for your service. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend and Friday. Adios.
Adios.
Bye.